Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Amaros Odyssey Automatic GMT Blue Atlantic. This watch is available from amaroswatches.com for €449. Amaros are a microbrand based in Paris, France. So firstly, let's look at the watch roll that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the specifications of the piece. So the watch comes in this genuine leather watch roll, matte black grain finish to it, good attention to detail because on the top of the flap we have the Amaros emblem and Amaros logo, which is embossed, flawless stitching around the perimeter, no loose stitches, gorgeous scent to it, and Amaros deserve credit here because they could have taken a less expensive default option of just using a plastic or cardboard watch box, alternatively a vinyl or PU leather watch roll, but this is made from genuine leather. Two stainless steel poppers which secure the flap, and again good attention to detail because on the underside we have this leather plaque, flawless stitching around the perimeter, and again it's embossed with the Amaros emblem and Amaros logo, so this gives it a higher end feel. The interior is fully upholstered with contrasting brown velour fabric, which is suede effect. What I like about it is the attention to detail because the stitching around the perimeter of the interior is matching brown to match the velour fabric, but the exterior stitching is matching black to match the genuine black leather. This is the same design as Mirage luxury travel rolls, and you'll know from my previous State of the Collection reviews, I like this style of watch roll because it has ribs on the left and the right hand flanks of the padded pillow cushion, and the ribs engage in the slots as an alternative to a pair of stainless steel poppers. This design is very good because it's very reliable and robust, and long term it has durability, but also it's very smooth. The two ribs slide in the sliders very smoothly, and this is good because you don't need to unpop and pop together stainless steel poppers in order to withdraw the piece from the watch roll. So interior is very well finished, exterior is very well finished, and the padded pillow cushion is upholstered to a good standard, and it's the correct proportions for a 6 to 7.5 inch bracelet size, therefore the majority of collectors. So Amaros deserve credit because immediately one gets the impression that this Amaros Odyssey Automatic GMT is a high quality piece from a French microbrand. With regards to items that come with the piece, it comes with this plastic warranty card. On the reverse, there's space to fill in the model number, serial number, and date of purchase. And I'm pleased to report that this watch is covered by a 2-year international warranty. And Amaros deserve credit here because low-tier pieces between €0 and €500 are usually covered by the industry standard mandatory 12-month international warranty. 2 years of international warranty is seen on mid-tier pieces between €500 and €5,000 price point respectively. This is €449 price point, therefore it's a low-tier piece. One would expect 12 months of warranty, not 2 years. 2 years of warranty adds value to the piece, and they deserve credit for that. One also gets this black envelope, and I'll show you what it contains. It contains this white card which is branded with Amaros, and on the reverse there's a QR code which can be scanned with one's Android or iPhone to download the owner's instruction manual and detailing the operation of the movement use, which is the Seiko Caliber NH34A automatic. And lastly, one also gets a pair of 1.2mm jeweler's screwdrivers. Now, why do they include a pair? Well, I'll explain. The bracelet on this piece has double-ended screw pins rather than single-ended screw pins, so therefore one needs a pair of 1.2mm screwdrivers, one to secure the left hand screw head and one to undo and do up the right hand screw pin. Now, to clarify, double-ended screw pins are generally seen on mid-tier and high-tier pieces. So for example, for reference, my Pequenet Concorde 40 with an obelisk link bracelet uses double-ended screw pins. They are higher quality than single-ended screw pins used on low-tier pieces. This is €4,000 price point. It's mid-tier. Very unusual to see a low-tier piece like this at €449 using double-ended screw pins as per a mid-tier piece at the €4,000 price point, such as my Concorde 40. They deserve credit for this. It does add value to the piece and it gives the bracelet a higher quality feel. So that's the reason for the double pair of 1.2mm screwdrivers. So mild steel shank, which is knurled, and it's nickel plated to give the appearance of stainless steel, although it is actually nickel plated mild steel. Hardened tool steel tip, which is precision ground to 1.2mm, and it is replaceable should it become blunt or alternatively damaged. The end of it has a hexagon rotating tip, and that's good because it fits into the palm of the hand, and then one can precisely rotate the knurled shank using one's index finger and thumb to rotate the hardened tool steel tip. Good to see a pair of the screwdrivers, and they are both excellent quality, so I'm very pleased to see them included because they aren't necessary for double-ended screw pins. So with regards to the specifications of the piece, we have a 39mm case diameter, we have a lug-to-lug of 46.4mm, a thickness of 11.8mm, and a lug width of 20mm. The bracelet, which is Y-link, tapers from 20mm at the lugs down to 18mm at the 2-button push butterfly clasp. Clasp is signed both with the Amaros emblem and Amaros logo with high definition engraving. 2-button push triggers are correctly proportioned and they are mirror polished to perfection. So Y-link bracelet is very aesthetically pleasing because we've got a contrast of finishing, brushed satin finishing, and the centres of the Y-links are mirror polished to perfection. Now, with regards to taper, subjectively I'm going to be critical of 20 to 18. You'll know this from my previous reviews. For a 39mm head of the piece, 20 to 16 would be the correct taper. It is perfection personified. 22 to 18 is one industry standard taper. The alternative is 20 to 16. 20 to 18 isn't as popular because the bracelet looks more straight and parallel versus a more aggressive taper of 20 to 16. Therefore, I think for a 39 head of the piece, 20 to 16 would look better and also feel better and also be better balanced. For larger pieces at 41 plus, 22 to 18 is better. But for a 39, 20 to 16 is better looking and feels better than a 20 to 16. But this is subjective. Some collectors might like the straight parallel look of the bracelet. So bezel is solid 316L grade stainless steel, flawless mirror polishing to the top and the edge. Large chamfer which deletes the edge of it on the transition. This deletes the sharp edge. The mirror polishing to the bezel is stellar. What I like about it is the use of a flat sapphire crystal. Amaros have made the correct decision here because many mid-tier brands and also low-tier micro brands use box top hat double dome sapphire crystals or double dome sapphire crystals to give a piece of vintage aesthetic. This looks contemporary, but it's also beneficial to use a flat sapphire crystal here because the Seiko NH34A is a thick caliber. And the problem with that is often pieces which are 100 meters with the NH34A, they're 30 millimeters plus. And therefore they feel top heavy and that diminishes comfort level and feel good factor. This is very slender, it's very thin. For a 100 meter piece with the NH34A, it's only 11.8, not even 12 millimeters. I would expect this to be 13. And that's the benefit of this having a flat sapphire crystal. The thing I like about the flat sapphire crystal is it has a large bevel on the edge. So to clarify, with regards to sapphire crystals, there are two types of edge on a sapphire crystal. Box top hat double dome sapphire crystals and double dome sapphire crystals have a fillet edge. A fillet edge is curved. Flat sapphire crystals like this have a flat edge on the crystal, which is called a beveled edge. And this is correct. Flat sapphire crystal with a bevel edge versus a fillet edge, which is curved. The benefit is it's very aesthetically pleasing because when one tilts the piece at an oblique angle, the bevel on the edge of the crystal catches the light because it projects above the flat profile bezel. And this is absolutely gorgeous. So clear AR coating does an outstanding job of reducing the glare and the highly reflective nature of the skeletonized alpha handset. The hands are brushed satin finished rather than being mirror polished, as are the beveled indices. Now, I want to give due credit to Amaros here because they've chosen the correct choice of finishing. Often alpha handsets, including skeletonized alpha hands like this, are mirror polished to match mirror polished beveled indices. Problem with that is they're very shiny and reflective, rather like a mirror. This is good because the alpha handsets are brushed satin finished to match the brushed satin finish beveled indices. If they were mirror polished, this would be shiny and reflective because the light entering the sapphire crystal and the dial would be bounced around the bevels on the indices and bounced around off the handset. It would be reflective, shiny like a mirror. This is very non-reflective. So the AR coating performs very well. The clarity of the crystal is excellent, but also it's not too shiny. And when one tilts the piece at an oblique angle, the AR coating works well to reduce the reflection, as does the matte satin finished indices and the matte satin finished skeletonized alpha handsets. Excellent choice of finishing. I like the contrasting GMT arrowhand. It's correctly proportioned with a skeletonized arrowhead tip. And the benefit of it being red and also having an arrowhead tip is one can immediately identify, one can immediately differentiate between the GMT arrowhand and the regular 12 hour hand, which is alpha hand shape. So this is excellent. Sunray blue dial is very aesthetically pleasing. When one tilts the piece at an oblique angle, it changes from a dark navy blue to a lighter blue, adds interest to the dial versus just using a matte textured blue dial or glossy enamel blue dial, which again would be too shiny and reflective. Sunray blue is the correct choice, and of the colour options of the Odyssey automatic GMT, this Sunray blue version is the best looking. I like the red accents, just bear with me, I'm going to move the minute hand out of the way so you can see it better. The red accent on the GMT hour hand is complemented by the red GMT text on the dial above the French tricolour flag, and then beneath it we've got automatique. What I like about it is Amaros have used the French spelling of automatic as automatique, and this of course adds to the aesthetic of the piece because they are a French microband based in Paris, France. Excellent. Good attention to detail with the date complication because they've colour coded the date wheel to match the dial. It's blue. Rather than using the default option of a white date wheel with black Arabic numerals, or alternatively the other default option, a black date wheel with white Arabic numerals, all the different versions, the colour versions of the Odyssey automatic GMT, they have colour coded date wheels. This blue date wheel matches the blue tone of the Sunray blue dial. Excellent. This is the kind of attention to detail from a low tier microband one rarely sees, and I think it's excellent. They deserve credit. Now, around the circumference of the dial, we have a chaptering which is silver, and it's concentric CNC lathe tool machine to a brushed satin finish which has a beautiful lustre. Black minute ticks for the chaptering are excellent. And then around that chaptering we have a second 24-hour chaptering which is beveled, and it's a dark navy blue which complements the Sunray blue dial. Quality of the 24-hour Arabic numerals on the 24-hour chaptering are excellent. The hour markers are crisp and high definition, as are the Arabic numerals. Both the singles and the doubles are clearly legible. Legibility of this dial is fantastic, and I like the symmetry of it, and strictly speaking it's an asymmetrical dial because we have the white framed date complication at 3. But the proportions of the indices are excellent. I like the bevels, and I like the choice of brushed satin finishing. Also like the attention to detail because we've got an applied 3D silver mirror polished Amaros emblem which adds interest to the dial but also gives it a high tier feel or mid tier feel. This does not say to me low tier €0 to €500 dial execution. This says to me mid tier €500 to €5,000 dial execution. Quality of the finishing to the brushed satin finish beveled indices is mid-tier. Quality of the finishing to the brushed satin finish skeletonized alpha handset is mid-tier level. Make no mistake, this is not low tier, this is mid-tier level quality. So bezel is solid 316L grade stainless steel, flawless mirror polishing to it. Case has twisted lyre lugs, rather like an Amiga case, and I like the twisted lyre lugs. Now to clarify, what I like about the Odyssey automatic GMT is this is not an homage to Rolex, Tudor or Amiga pieces. This is a completely original design. However, one could say that the twisted lyre lugs are inspired by Amiga pieces because twisted lyre lugs are a feature of Amiga pieces such as the Aquaterra, for example. But it's not just an homage to an Amiga Aquaterra case. That's what I like about it. So it's very aesthetically pleasing, and I like everything about its original. The use of the skeletonized handset, which is alpha hands, and the beveled indices, the Amaros 3D applied emblem, and also the case shape is unique to the Odyssey automatic GMT. From a microband's perspective, regardless of whether it's low tier, mid tier, high tier microband, it's risky because often low-tier microbands take the less risky option of making an homage to a Rolex, Tudor or Amiga piece because they know there will be market hunger for those pieces, there will be market demand, and therefore it's less risky. For example, when they run a Kickstarter campaign, they know they're going to get sufficient backers to fully fund it, as Amaros did with this piece. It's more risky to create an original design, which isn't an homage to Rolex, Tudor or Amiga, because one has the question, is the market going to be hungry for it? Is there going to be sufficient demand? But their Kickstarter campaign did fully fund. So yes, there is hunger for this design. And of course, it's now in production. But you can see, it's clearly inspired by an Amiga twisted lyre lug case shape. But I like that the bracelet, for example, they haven't just used the default option of a flat link bracelet, Jubilee style bracelet, oyster style or beads of rice style bracelet, which are the default options. This Y-link bracelet is original, and it is very aesthetically pleasing because the Y-links have mirror polished centres to them, but the outer portions are brushed satin finish to a beautiful lustre. Quality of the bracelet finishing is fantastic. No sharp edges to the top edge or the lower edge of the flanks. They've got large bevels on the edges, on the top edge and the lower edge. This looks aesthetically pleasing, but it also serves a purpose because the bevels on the edge of the flanks delete the sharp edge. Therefore, it doesn't scratch the wrist. It doesn't pull arm hairs. So let's check the articulation. Now, N-link doesn't articulate as much as a female pivoted N-link. It's similar to a male N-link, which is a given due to the Y-link design. But what I like about it is it's smooth. It does articulate freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, but doesn't have excess longitudinal, lateral, side, up and down play. Tolerances are good. I'm just going to undo the butterfly clasp to allow it to articulate fully. Let's check the articulation. Again, articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink. But what I like about it is it's not sloppy. Nice and tight. Pleasant surprise. This is the benefit of using double-ended screw pins. As you can see, we have flat-head screws on the left and the right-hand flank, same as the obelisk link bracelet used on my Concord 40, which is a 4,000 euro piece. And again, I want to remind you, it's worth reiterating because this is exceptional. This is the first and only time I have seen a low-tier piece from a French microband between 0 and 500 euro, to remind you it's 449 euro, with double-ended screw pins, not single-ended, as per the double-ended screw pins used in my Concord 40, which is 4,000 euro. This is exceptional. They deserve credit. They could have used the production cost-cutting measure of push pins. They could have used the production cost-cutting measure of single-ended screw pins, which would have been acceptable. But they haven't. This is mid-tier level and high-tier level. Double-ended screw pins. Stellar. And the benefit is it's not sloppy. This is a nice tight Y-link bracelet. Doesn't have excess longitudinal, lateral, side, up and down play, but articulates freely. It's not too stiff. Now, it doesn't articulate as much as an oyster style or Jubilee style bracelet. That's a given with Y-link bracelets like this. But it's smooth. Doesn't pull arm hairs, no sharp edges, beautiful luster to it. And on the flanks, we've got brush satin finishing. And the quality of the brush satin finishing is fine. It's not rough, it's not coarse. Quality of the mirror polishing to the centres of the Y-links is stellar. Let's check the other side for continuity. Again, N-link articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, doesn't have excess play. Yes, it doesn't articulate as much as a female pivoted N-link, it's a male N-link, that's acceptable, but it's nice and tight. Let's check the articulation of the bracelet. Fluid. Stellar. This is not sloppy. I like it because it feels smooth, feels fluid, no stiff links, doesn't kink, but flows nicely. Benefit of this is, and I'll show you in the wrist shot, it curves around the wrist beautifully and doesn't pull arm hairs, doesn't scratch the wrist because we've got these large bevels on the top edge and the lower edge of the flanks. Looks good, but also feels good. No sharp edges whatsoever. Quality of the mirror polishing, quality of the brush satin finishing is mid-tier level. This does not say to me low-tier, microband, 0 to 500 euro. Build quality, quality control, materials finishing. This says to me mid-tier, 500 to 5,000 euro. Stellar. One also has to appreciate Amaros are a new microband. They haven't been in production for the last 5 to 10 years. They started this Kickstarter campaign for this piece in 2025 and it's successfully funded, so this piece is now in production in 2026. But the point I'm making is this is their first piece, their first edition, their novelty, and they are getting it correct from day one. They deserve credit. So excellent. Articulation is good, looks good, feels good, but it's not sloppy, doesn't have excess play. That's the benefit of double-ended screw pins. Fantastic. So let's look at the clasp in detail. So as I've detailed, it's signed, and I'm pleased to see that it's not sterile and unsigned. So we have the emblem and also the logo. However, I'm going to be critical subjectively of the absence of half links. I'm not just levelling criticism at Amaros here, I also level criticism at other brands. Now to clarify, if you look at my Concord 40, and one has to be magnanimous here about Amaros because this is a mid-tier piece costing 4,000, so of course it's going to be better, but it has a half link on one side of the butterfly clasp, and Pequenet include half links as well as full links because that gives a better fit. It's often the case, and same applies to this butterfly clasp bracelet with the Y links, that when you only have full links rather than half links either side on the 6 and the 12 side of the butterfly clasp, it's hard to get the correct fits in the absence of micro adjustment. And the problem is, for example, sometimes adding or subtracting one full link from a wire link bracelet doesn't give the desired fit. The bracelet will either feel slightly too tight or slightly too loose. What one needs is a half link. So for example, if you need to delete one full link, you can delete a half link from the 6 plus a half link from the 12 side, and that will give you one full link. But the butterfly triggers, the two buttons, will remain central rather than offset too far to the left or right, too far to the 6 or the 12 side respectively. So it's beneficial to have half links, and that's something I'd like to see Amaros include or update. I'd like to see a half link added to the 6 and a half link added to the 12 side. But nonetheless, butterfly clasp opens freely, heavily sprung loaded. Let's check the hinge pins. Left hand hinge pin articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, that's the benefit. It's not sloppy. Left hand inner hinge pin articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, that's the benefit, doesn't have excess play. Right hand inner hinge pin articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, doesn't have excess play. Finally, right hand outer hinge pin articulates freely, doesn't feel stiff or kink, doesn't have excess play. Pleasant surprise. And one has to remember, this is a low tier piece. Yes, we are at the upper end of low tier, 0 to 500. At 449, we are at the upper end, but it's a pleasant surprise to see 4 hinge pins: left hand outer, left hand inner, right hand outer, friction interference fit. The benefit is this is not sloppy, doesn't have excess play, and both the left and the right hand portion snap shut with a nice positive click, and they deploy fully with a nice positive action. No sharp edges to the top edge or the lower edge. Quality of the mirror polishing is stellar. This is a good quality, low tier butterfly clasp. They deserve credit. They are getting it correct, even down to engraving stainless steel the correct way up. I like the way that it's not handed, because one can close the left or the right hand portion first or last. It's good. Right, so let's test the screw down crown execution. Solid 316L grade stainless steel crown, coin edge finished, large chamfer which deletes the tips of the coin edge teeth, matte blasted satin finish background to it, and it is embossed with the Amaros emblem to a good standard, so correctly proportioned. What I like about it is it's large enough to be grippy and tactile, but it's not oversized, so when one flexes the wrist, the crown doesn't dig into the back of the hand, rather like a dive watch crown which is oversized for a 39mm case size. It's correct, so easy to get good purchase on with one's index finger and thumb. Silky smooth. This is sublime screw down crown execution. I really like this screw down crown, and they deserve credit because, as I've detailed, Amaros are a new microbrand. They were founded in 2015. And this is their first edition, their first novelty, the Odyssey Automatic GMT. But they are getting it correct. The fundamentals, they are getting it correct. Build quality, quality control, materials, finishing. There's a perfect interface between the internal thread of the stainless steel crown and the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. This is silky smooth. It is sublime screw down crown execution. Again, this does not say to me low tier level. This does not say to me 0 to 500 euro. This says to me mid tier, 500 to 5,000 euro level refinements. If I had to choose one word to describe it, it would be refinement. So silky smooth. So when it's unscrewed, we're now in the manual wind position, and one can manually wind the Seiko Caliber NH34A automatic to its maximum 41 hour power reserve. One can feel the tension in the mainspring gradually building up. It feels smooth. In terms of smoothness, it does feel the same as an NH35A, alternatively an NH38A. They have the same architecture. There's no discernible difference. One can feel the tension gradually building up. It feels smoother than manually winding a PT5000, which is stiff, and that feels rough and gritty. It's not as smooth and refined as the Miyota 9015, alternatively 9039, or alternatively the 9075, which is the GMT version of the aforementioned. That's a given, but it does feel smooth. It does feel a level above the Miyota 8215 and 8315 respectively. Putting it out to the first click position is the quick set date complication. So when one rotates the coin edge crown anti-clockwise, that advances the quick set date. What I like about it is the single and the double abric numerals align correctly in the white framed date window. They're not too far to the left or right, they're not too high or too low, and they click over with a nice positive clicking action to the quick set. Loud audible clicks, they sound good and also feel good. So legibility is good. The colour-coded blue date wheel contrasts very well with the white Arabic numerals. Both the single and the double Arabic numerals are clearly legible. The font is sharp, it's crisp, it's high definition, it's not too thick and blurry, and it complements the white framing around the date window. So it's good. Now, when we're in the date setting position, The GMT complication is driven off the date complication, so when one rotates the crown in the opposite direction clockwise, that advances the red contrasting GMT hour hand, and it also operates with a quick set, so it clicks rather than just being smooth, and it feels exactly the same as the quick set date complication. Loud audible clicks, and one can feel the clicks via the crown and winding stem. Works very well, alignment is correct, and also like the fact you can quick set the second time zone via the quick set complication, as you can see. So rotating the crown anti-clockwise advances the date, rotating the crown clockwise advances the GMT complication. Works very well. Putting it out to the second click hacks the movement. Therefore, it's possible to set the time precisely to the second with a Seiko Caliber NH34A automatic. So we're now in the time setting position. And if you look at the silver second hand, you can see it's now stopped dead. Therefore, it is possible to set the time precisely to the second. Now, one can also move the GMT hour hand, cycling through the 12 hours in the conventional manner. And in terms of backplay, it does have less backplay than a Miyota 8215 or 8315, similar backplay to an NH35A or NH38A respectively, because the architecture is the same, there's no discernible difference. It feels smooth both clockwise and anti-clockwise, albeit it's not as refined, and it does have more backplay than a 9015, 9039 and 9075, as well as the SW200-1, which you may be familiar with. But the backplay is just a characteristic of the caliber, and once one becomes accustomed to it, I don't regard it as detrimental, but one has to take up some slack in the minute hand. When one rotates the crown clockwise and anti-clockwise, there's an almost immediate response, so the level of backplay is okay. Pushing it back in, it's got a nice positive click, and that restarts the caliber. You can see the second hand begins to sweep around at the characteristic 3 Hz sweep. Now, you'll know this from my previous reviews, but I'll reiterate it for the benefit of those of you that have not heard it. I dislike the stutter or judder of a 3 Hz sweep. It's not as smooth as the smoother sweep of a 4 Hz movement, because 3 Hz means it runs at 21,600 vibrations per hour versus the smoother sweep of 4 Hz running at 28,800 vibrations per hour respectively. So from an aesthetic perspective, 4 Hz looks smoother, as per the 9015 for example, but it's just a characteristic of NH35A, NH38A and NH34A movements. They run at 3 Hz and they have this stutter or judder. That's just the way it is, but works well. Let's test screwing the crown back down. Immediate thread pickup. This is perfect interface between the internal thread of the stainless steel crown and the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. Silky smooth. This is mid-tier level, silky smooth, sublime screw-down crown execution. This does not say to me low tier. They are getting the fundamentals correct from day one. This is a new microbrand, but from 2025, they are getting this novelty perfected. Stellar. What I like about it is, one doesn't need to rotate the crown anti-clockwise and clockwise, anti-clockwise and clockwise again to get the threads to mate, to get them to pick up. First time, 10 out of 10 times, this picks up every single time. It's fantastic. Build quality, quality control, materials, finishing. The tolerances are there. They've got it right. They deserve credit. So, let's look at the case back in detail. What we have here is a forged case back. So what does that mean? Well, forged case back means it's hydraulically pressed as an alternative to an engraved case back. Now, to put this into perspective, had they engraved this with the embossed Amaros emblem, which is very aesthetically pleasing, with this depth and the matte blasted background to it, this would be sharp, it would feel rough. That would diminish comfort level and feel good factor, because the problem with high definition engraved case backs with deep embossing or deep engraving is, yes, they look aesthetically pleasing, but the problem with the deep engraving and deep embossing is they feel rough, they feel sharp, they feel abrasive. That diminishes comfort level and feel good factor. This is a forged case back. It is hydraulically pressed, so one can still have the high definition 3D effect of the Amaros emblem and it's mirror polished to perfection, but the point is it feels smooth. This enhances comfort level and feel good factor. Forged case backs are seen on mid-tier pieces between 500 and 5,000 euro. They're also seen on high-tier pieces at 10,000 plus. It's good to see a low-tier 0 to 500 euro price point microband using pressed hydraulic case backs, forged case backs versus engraved. This is fantastic. So as you can see, it says Design en France, which means designed in France, and it also states sapphire crystal and 100 meters, as well as L'Odyssey, the model. So this is an excellent case back. Looks good, feels good, nice 3D effect to the emblem, which is mirror polished with a matte satin bead blasted background. Fantastic. The circumference of it is concentric CNC lathe tool machine, beautiful lustre to it. The milled slots are deburred very well, so no sharp edges. And what I like about it is nice and flat. This is not a deep bubble back case back, and it's a pleasant surprise because one has to be mindful. This is powered by the NH34A, which is a thick caliber. And of course, like the NH35A and like the NH38A, which has the same architecture, often they need deep bubble back case backs. The reason for that is because it's a thick caliber, the rotor needs additional clearance. Otherwise, the rotor will foul the underside of the stainless steel case back. But this is surprisingly flat. It's rather like the flat case back one would get with a 9015, 9039 or 9075 powered piece. Nice flat centre section to it, and it's just not deep. And of course the benefit of that is with a flat sapphire crystal in the front and the flat case back, they've slimmed this piece down to only 11.8. This really does impress me because often NH34A powered pieces are very thick. They're 13mm plus with 100 meters. But again, this is the benefit of it having a flat sapphire crystal versus a box top hat double dome sapphire crystal, alternatively double dome sapphire crystal, because it reduces the thickness on the front. And they've also reduced the thickness of the case back, so it's very slender. The case is also not thick and slab sided, it's low profile. The flanks are not too thick. This is a very thin piece. For an NH34A, this is impressing me. 11.8, not even 12mm thick, but still has 100 meters. Fantastic. Underside to the head of the piece is mirror polished to perfection. Tips of the lugs are beveled, so therefore no sharp corners, and I'm pleased to see the correct choice of quick release stainless steel spring bars. That negates the need for a spring bar tool should you wish to exchange the bracelet for an alternative strap. So correct decision after correct decision, and the Y-shape solid end links are a good tight fit to the head of the piece. Let's look at the finishing to the head of the piece in detail. So as I've detailed, solid 316L grade stainless steel case, twisted lyre lugs, rather like an Amiga. Mirror polished bevels, which mark the transition between the tops of the twisted lyre lugs. Brushed satin finish internals to the twisted lyre lugs, and that complements the longitudinal brushed satin finishing to the flanks. The quality of the brushed satin finishing to the flanks is mid-tier level. Make no mistake, this is not low-tier €0 to €500 level. This is mid-tier, €500 to €5,000 brushed satin finishing. Mirror polishing to the bevels is mid-tier level. Brushed satin finishing to the flanks is mid-tier level. Absolutely flawless. This is stellar. Very aesthetically pleasing. What I like about it is, as I've detailed, the flanks are low profile. Nice curvature, but they're not thick. They're not too tall. This does not look visually like a thick slab of 316L grade stainless steel. The case is low profile, and it does look and feel like an 11.8mm, as I'll show you in the wrist shots. Fantastic looking case. Finishing is stellar. Right, so I'll give you a wrist shot, and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now just bear with me, I'm going to remove my Concord 40. Now I haven't sized the bracelet, and I'm pleased to report that this Y-link bracelet is long enough to fit up to a 9-inch wrist size. I can easily slide an index finger beneath the bracelet and butterfly clasp at all times. That indicates that this piece would fit up to an 8.5 to 9-inch wrist size very easily. So plenty of removable links. This will size down to a minimum 6-inch wrist size. There are enough removable links on the 6 and the 12 o'clock side of the bracelet to size this to a minimum 6 up to a maximum 8.5 to 9-inch wrist size, as you can see. Excellent. They just could further enhance it by a half link on the 6 and a half link on the 12 side, as I've detailed, but good to see plenty of links, good to see enough removable links to size it from 6 to 9 inches. And as I've detailed, double-ended screw pins are high quality, rather like my Concord 40 at the €4,000 price point. Proportions of this piece are fantastic, and I want to give due credit to Amaros here, because what we're looking at is correct decision after correct decision, because 39mm fits all wrist sizes very well, 6 to 7 and 7 to 8 inches. It does have enough wrist presence to satisfy, but it doesn't dominate the wrist. It doesn't look or feel like a thick slab of 316L grade stainless steel. It curves around the wrist nicely, and the twisted lyre lugs, rather like an Amiga case shape, do make it very aesthetically pleasing, but they also reduce the visual impact. Looks good. The blue sunray dial is very aesthetically pleasing. The satin finish to the skeletonized alpha handset are clearly legible, correctly proportioned. GMT hour hand contrasts very well, and the beveled satin finish, brush satin finished applied indices contrast very well. Legibility is good, and wrist presence is satisfying at 39. Now, it's got a compact lug to lug of 46.4. That's well below the 48mm sweet spot that I often refer to. 48 is the industry standard because it fits all wrist sizes to perfection, and I often refer to it. Now, 46.4 is below the 48 sweet spot. However, I'm not going to be critical. Why is that? Well, this will fit smaller 6 to 7 inch wrists very well, because 46.4 is particularly beneficial because it doesn't have female pivotal end links. It has this Y-link shape, solid end link. And of course, this doesn't articulate as much as a female pivoted end link. That's a given. Subjectively, one could say, well, this would give a better fit if it had a female pivotal end link, but subjectively, then one could argue this has a Y-link bracelet and it would spoil the design aesthetic of the Y-links in the bracelet if they didn't have a Y-link end link to match the links in the bracelets. A female pivotal end link wouldn't match, it would clash. So in this case, I'm not going to be critical of the Y-link end link, which is like a male end link, but the fit, of course, therefore it needs a shorter lug to lug. That's the point I'm making. Had they made this 48 with this solid Y-link end link in the bracelet, of course, that would create a gap beneath the tip of the lugs and also the end link in the Y-link bracelet. So what we're looking at here is correct decision after correct decision, because they've shortened up the case to a more compact 46.4. This is beneficial for collectors with a smaller 6 to 7, but equally, even on my large 8-inch wrist, it fits very well. Beautiful luster to the bracelet. It's fantastic. The brushed satin finishing is stellar. Mirror polishing to the centres of the Y-links is stellar. Adds interest. And again, to reiterate, what I like about this piece is it's completely original. We're not looking at an homage to a Rolex, Tudor or Omega piece here, albeit it does have twisted lyre lugs, which are clearly inspired by an Omega case. The point is, it's an original design. This is not an oyster style bracelet, it's not a beads of rice bracelet, Jubilee style bracelet or flat link bracelet. This Y-link bracelet is original and the design of the piece is original. It's not an homage. More risky for a microband, but from a collector's perspective, I like the originality of it. They deserve credit. The taper would look better, 20 to 16, but 20 to 18 is okay. It does feel balanced. That's what I like about it. The other thing is the comfort level is fantastic. When it moves up and down the wrist, no sharp edges due to the bevels, and it doesn't pull arm hairs. It's very fluid. It flexes and articulates. It wraps around the wrist very well. It's not too stiff. It doesn't kink, and it just looks fantastic from every angle. It's a very satisfying piece. Comfort level and feel good factor are stellar, and it feels very well balanced. What I like about it is this is exactly 150 grams. Now bear in mind, it's 150 grams with a long bracelet. But you'll know this from my previous reviews. For a 39mm piece, 150 grams and below is the perfect sweet spot because it gives a feeling of heft, it gives a feeling of quality, but it doesn't feel too heavy, it doesn't feel unbalanced. The head of the piece balances the bracelet, balances the clasp. And what I like about this clasp is it's low profile. It's not too bulky, it's got nice curvature to it, and the curvature is good for a 6 to 7 inch wrist, the curvature is good for a 7 to 8 inch wrist. It wraps around the wrist very well. It doesn't stick out too proud, and it feels very comfortable and low profile. Looks good, feels good. So it's a very well balanced piece. Doesn't feel top heavy like a thick slab of 316L grade stainless steel. And that's what I like about it above all else. This is 11.8, not even 12mm thick. Nice flat case back, nice flat sapphire crystal, not a box top hat crystal adding 2mm of thickness, and it doesn't have a deep bubble back case back adding thickness. Low profile flanks, looks good, feels good. And needless to say, this will easily slip underneath a shirt cuff if you wear business shirts. You'll know this from my previous reviews. 13mm and below is the sweet spot for a piece to easily slip underneath a shirt cuff. So, at only 11.8, it's well below the 13 sweet spot. This will easily slip underneath a shirt cuff. Low profile, thin, well balanced, 150 grams, has enough wrist presence to satisfy at 39. Fit is good. And I like everything about it. They deserve credit. Original design, but it just looks fantastic. Legibility is good. Twisted lyre lugs add interest, and the mirror polished bezel is just fantastic. Great looking piece. Bracelet looks good and also feels good. It's a very comfortable bracelet. So pleasant surprise. And in terms of comfort level and feel good factor, 150 grams is excellent, and also the lack of thickness at 11.8 is excellent. Right, so we don't need to do a Lume test because there is no Lume on the dial and hands. Now, subjectively one could be critical of that and say Amaros have missed an opportunity here because they could have infilled the skeletonized alpha hands with BGW9 or C3 Superlume Nova, and they could have also added BGW9 or C3 Superlume Nova to the applied indices. However, Subjectively, one could argue, well, that would spoil the aesthetic of this piece. It's a GMT complication piece. It comes down to your personal preference. Do you prefer GMT pieces to have lume or without lume? This does have more like a dress watch aesthetic with a skeletonized alpha hands, but of course it's a daily wear piece with a GMT complication and date complication. It is versatile. Could potentially be worn as a dress piece due to the Y-link bracelet with the mirror polished centers. So I like the versatility of it. I would prefer if they updated this with a V2 version and they infilled the skeletonized alpha hands with BGW9 and they applied BGW9 to the indices, but that's my personal preference. I appreciate some collectors might prefer the skeletonized alpha hands and the solid silver applied indices versus being loomed. But lume would be beneficial for a GMT piece, that's a given, and it really comes down to your personal taste, but very aesthetically pleasing. So we don't need to do a lume test, so I'll move on to discussing the movement, which is my favourite aspect of the piece. So this is powered by the Seiko Caliber NH34A Automatic, which is made in Japan. Seiko make the NH34A in two plants in Malaysia and Japan. Amaros are using the Japanese-made version. There's no discernible difference in build quality, quality control, materials and finishing of the two Japanese and Malaysian made versions. The architecture of the NH34A is based upon the NH35A. It simply has a GMT hour hand added to the cannon pinion, which is driven off the date complication as I've detailed, but the architecture is identical other than that. Has the same 24 joules. It runs at 21,600 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 3 Hz. It has hand winding and hacking, which use for complications, and they work well as I've demonstrated. Quick set date complication works correctly. GMT complication also works correctly. 41-hour power reserve is perfectly acceptable. The stated accuracy of the NH34A is -20 to +40 seconds per day. So rather odd accuracy range. However, I'm pleased to report that Amaros are doing a good job of regulating the calibers they're using in 5 positions to better than the stated accuracy of -20 to +40. This one is running consistently at +5 seconds per day. +5 is well within the stated -20 to +40, and it's actually within chronometer grade limits of -4 to +6. Excellent. Excellent to see +5 from an NH34A, and I think it is an excellent choice of movement. The reason why I say that is the reliability is proven beyond question. The NH34A has been in service since 2022. And at this stage in 2026, there are no reliability issues reported. And of course, that's to be expected because it's based upon the well-proven architecture of the NH35A, which in itself is incredibly reliable. Its reliability has been proven beyond question. However, I would prefer to see a higher grade of caliber used, such as the Miyota Caliber 9075, which is an automatic with GMT complication. That's a level above it, and of course the other benefit is it's a thinner caliber, albeit this is satisfactory. This has actually exceeded my expectations for an NH34 piece at only 11.8, but they could slim it down further with a 9075. But the NH34A is reliable, it's a well-proven workhorse caliber. Quick set date complication works well, GMT complication works well, hand winding and hacking work well. The reliability is stellar, accuracy is good at +5. Correct choice. So lastly, I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch should meet 2 criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So, low tier piece. To remind you, low tier is €0 to €500. We are at the upper end of low tier, €449 respectively. I'm going to declare it excellent quality and I'm going to declare the value as okay. So why do I say okay value? Why don't I say good or excellent value? Well, simply the movement. In order for this to be upgraded to good or excellent value, it needs a higher grade of caliber. Yes, for a low tier piece between €0 and €500 price point from a microbrand, one expects the NH34A. It is the correct choice between 0 and 500. However, we are at the upper end of the low tier. We're on the cusp of mid-tier, 500 to 5,000. At €449, it's getting close to mid-tier level. So I prefer to see this upgraded from the NH34A to the Miyota Caliber 9075 because that is a level above it. It's a premium 9000 grade caliber, like the 9015, like the 9039. That would give this the edge over competitors. The other factor why I downgrade it from excellent and good value down to okay is simply because this does face some stiff competition from other low tier microbrands at the same €449 price point. They are using similar specification and they are also using the NH34A. So it does face some stiff competition. In order to gain the edge over the competitors, the other rivals at the same price point, it needs a higher grade of caliber. So the 9075 is the correct choice. That would upgrade it. Now, of course, in order to make it viable, they would have to increase the price point, the retail, because the 9075 is a more expensive caliber than the NH34A. That's a given. But I think even if they push the price point up to mid-tier at 500 plus, collectors would happily pay the additional 500 plus price point to get a Miyota 9075. It's a level above the NH34A. The other benefit is they could slim it down further. They could reduce it from 11.8 down to 11.5 or below, and that would of course enhance comfort level and feel good factor further. But 11.8 does impress me for 100 meters, and it does impress me for NH34A. I would expect this to be 12 plus. Excellent. So lastly, I'll summarise the piece. I'm going to declare it excellent quality, okay value. I'm going to highly recommend it to you for consideration. I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Amaros L'Odyssey Automatic GMT Blue Atlantic. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you for watching.